Доброе утро. Ohayo gozaimasu. Ciao boy-san. Kalimera. Now that I have butchered 4 languages, let me know what those languages were in the comments and tell me what I said in those languages. And let's begin today's video, comrades. So the previous video was called communism and this video is called socialism. Let me tell you, there is no logical flow to this. There's no reason why that is called that and this is called this. It's just that I wanted to talk about the left, and this is what I'm naming the videos. Deal with it. So anyways, as I was mentioning in the previous video, that I'd like to talk more about this because the last video was much about the content which I was sharing with you, which I had jotted down for a conference. Now I want to take that point further to discuss the current political landscape of the world, which is obviously not an easy thing to do or something that I would be very good at, but let me just attempt this. Alright, so as I mentioned, we should really rise above the whole idea of a political alignment. Okay, maybe those tags, those signifiers are useful for the voters to decide who they're going to vote, or helps maybe the political theorists or politicians to succinctly define their worldview or their policies. But we shouldn't take those classifications and separations too seriously. We should move through that spectrum and then come up with something which makes sense for the local polity and as well as the global political scenario. Now, this is something that I have been chewing on about spectrums of all different kinds. So, for example, in this case, we talk about the left, we talk about the right, and as far as I'm concerned, so what I think is that it's not a spectrum where the far left and the far right are very different. It's more of a circular thing. That's what I believe in. That uh, the similarities between the far left and far right are much more than a lay person would realize, or maybe some people would like to believe. And that becomes true in the sense that even in case of, now this might be a little controversial, but still, if you look at Israel and Palestine today, in a way, the hardliners on both the sides are saying the same things in slightly different undertones, but the basic foundational message is very similar. And I got thinking about this, especially after I watched a recent interview of Slavoj Žižek with someone, and I really like watching that guy. You should check him out if you haven't till now. He is known by many different names. For example, the world's most dangerous communist and a rock star communist, and the Elvis Presley of public intellectuals and something like that, or Elton John, whatever it is. The point I'm trying to make is that maybe we need to stop categorizing our policies and thinkings into little boxes and lay bare everything that works, that is good for the welfare of society and all those things, and maybe come up with something new. What that might be, how exactly do we go about doing that? I don't have the outline for that kind of a project, but I think it's important. Now, what I'm saying might remind you of, okay, so you're talking about the center, but I don't know, the same friend who was organizing that particular committee which I talked about, he was he asked me about my political alignment one day when we were in the school bus. Now this was, I was in 11th, I think, 10th, 11th, 11th, yeah, yeah. So I, my political thought wasn't that refined, so I just said that yeah, I would call myself a centrist. And he, according to him, that true centrists do not believe in anything. So that's when I said, okay, maybe I'm a left-leaning centrist, and that is a position that I've more or less stuck with throughout this time. I even took that, the political alignment quiz, which instead of giving you a left-right alignment, it plots you on a like a graph kind of thing. So you got this axis and then this axis, XY axis, and I am roughly placed there itself. So yeah, that might remind you of moderatism, if not centrism. Moderatism, which is a good example, might be the United Kingdom. You take a little bit from the left, you take a little bit from the right, and you try to go forward. But is that the strategy that will be successful? Is that what will take us forward? Now, before I go ahead, I just wanted to fact check something which I said in the previous video. So I mentioned that the fourth international was a hypothetical situation, blah blah. That's not entirely true, actually. Third international was not the last international conference. Apparently, I checked on Wikipedia, so I don't know. So it's around, I think the seventh international was the last one that occurred. I don't know why ours was called the fourth international, but whatever it was, that was in the past. So today we are looking at a lot of, let's say, alternative movements where people want to do away with capitalism, and uh, some people want to do away with fascism. Well, okay, but if you look at the recent history, capitalism works, and some countries are doing at least fairly okay with it. And in a way, that is what is running countries. A lot of people are even scared, from a lot of youth who are like, why don't we just do away with capitalism? I think we won't be able to do away with capitalism so easily, and I don't know if that should even be our goal. Maybe some of the negative aspects of it we need to realize and work upon, exploitation of people. But if you think about it, similar problems existed in like close enough communist states of the past, be it the USSR or any other example. And if you were to look at something which is the closest to being a communist state, it might be North Korea. And you tell me, do we really want a world like that? So I don't know, even if striving for true communism or striving for something on the far right are the best options for us. And you have all this suspicious behavior on both sides. For example, why would countries like China and Cuba ban a book like 1984 by George Orwell? Is it because it is showing a wrong portrayal of that ideology which those states follow? Or is it the truth which they don't want their public to know? Now, I know this sounds like a conspiracy theory or something, but that is something to think about. That where do we go from here? Because people don't necessarily enjoy uncertainty. They're like, okay, if capitalism is not the answer, if communism is not the answer, what is the answer? What are we supposed to do? The kind of world that we live in today, highly globalized, multicultural, it becomes difficult to think of something that will work across the world, across the nations. And Unfortunately, I I might end this on a bleak note where I don't know what is right, I don't know what to do, and I don't have any new or paradigm shifting solutions to provide here. But I somewhat share Slavoj Žižek's view here, who's who says that we must be pessimistic in thought, in theory, and optimistic in action. Now, that might be a little hard for people to do, but I think that is what makes the most sense, because with everything that how the world has been functioning, we are destroying our natural systems, we are destroying our social systems, uh, politics is in a dirty state, and at the same time, we must also realize that the situation might not be too different from uh, what had happened in the past. So it is not something entirely new that is happening today. But nevertheless, there are emergencies, there are situations that need to be taken care of. How do we uh, go about correcting them? Even if we are not able to correct them, we need to mitigate them. So what we really need is to rise above this these politics of a politician or a party. I think the best thing we can do is look at policy, because in the end policies are what move things in at least a political system, and from there it affects everything else, society, environment, and all those things. This whole interconnectedness, we need to think about these different things from different perspectives, and taking all those in consideration, we need to go forward. Because today the politics has become much more about, oh, this is my hero, this is my this. We should detach ourselves. I read somewhere on, I don't know, Tumblr, Instagram, or somewhere, that someone's political science professor, or I think sciences po is what they call it in the Europe. So he said that if you are the fan of a politician, then you have failed as a citizen. And I that really resonates with me, that we should, and a lot of that is what should be our goal, to think about policy, to think about the actions, to think about the implications of someone coming to power, rather than uh, just putting allegations and futile criticism of people. So that was all the time I had today, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.